Hello everyone and welcome to the Deep Blue Renegade podcast. My name is Molly, also known as the Deep Blue Renegade, and I'd like to welcome you guys to episode 279. Today is Sunday, June 2nd, 2019, and I'm glad you can join me today. I haven't been outside. I bet it's hot. I actually just recorded a brief segment explaining my breathing space, and then I very quickly changed out, like back into shorts. Because it is a little bit too warm up here to be wearing a fingering weight sweater. I don't have the AC on upstairs either, so that probably doesn't help. But I am slurping the coffee hardcore, so I don't know. It's so weird today. I've been drinking my coffee this morning so slowly that it basically got cold by the time that I was done, and then I've just totally guzzled this cup, so apparently my hands were too busy to drink. Oh well, whatever. So I'm gonna run out of coffee early this episode, but I'm not gonna make coffee in the middle. But I was super duper inspired by some of Amy Beth's separate sweater videos, so I decided that having a full body shot to sort of twirl around and talk about stuff would have been a little bit better than me being so close to you guys. Not it's this is my face, but I think it worked out fairly well. I accidentally I have a pair of mattresses and I foolishly did not crop them out of the frame, but we're keeping it real here every day. It was what's my verbal tick? It is. So, whatever. Such is life. But, yeah. So, I guess that's what I'm talking about right now. So, I blocked my breathing space. I forgot to weave in the ends. I think I was planning on doing that at midnight Friday. And then I ended up going to see John Wick Chapter 3 instead. Which, it's so gruesome, people were just laughing. It was so graphic that you just had to laugh. But I didn't end up weaving in ends in the theater, so I had all of the intentions because I wanted to get some nice FO shots. Perhaps it will be easiest to just grab a screen or something or whatever, grab a screenshot from my little what have you. I don't know. It would be nice to have pictures of it upon my body. So, it is complete. There's a little bit less pulling now, sort of in the ribbing, because the ribbing did end up tightening it up a little bit. And, excuse me, it is some details I didn't cover in my little blurb. This is knit out of Nest Superwash Merino Silk in the mistletoe, and a combination of Noel and Yuletide. So it is done. Happy with the results. Glad it's over. Doesn't, strictly speaking, count as a 2019 knit, even though it did take up a decent chunk of 2019 to knit it. But I did start it in 2018, shortly before Christmas. Had I not had as many epic roadblocks with this sweater, perhaps it would have been done much sooner. But I do find it to be super duper gorgeous, and now that it's off the needles, I can give you maybe a closer look at what's going on. So, it is a sweater that is perhaps best enjoyed up close in terms of all of the beautiful shades that are in the variegated part of it. So, at some point, I'm going to have to wear it and show it off with my friends. The knitting friends probably care more than the rest of my friends, but... So what I'm going to do, those are details I hadn't mentioned in my little blurb. So what I'm going to do now is cut in that section, and I will briefly stop recording to make that. So this is my completed breathing space. So it is much longer than I was expecting, which may explain why I needed so much more yarn than I had originally accounted for. Because I believe that it's actually supposed to end about here, which I don't think I would have had enough yarn if I had tried ending it there. But what this does make it is actually like a completely leggings friendly sweater. What I've been sort of, or before I pressed record, I was just sort of playing a little bit with it, because there's definitely quite a lot of positive ease in the bottom. So it'd be the case where I'm wondering in some ways if the shape would be a smidge more flattering actually if it was a little bit smaller, which I find to be entertaining. Because then it really shows off nicely like all of my curves. But as it is, it does fit really well in the top. I don't know about like the forwards to backwards differences, or if the length compensation is enough. But it was the case where I ended up making modifications in the raglan increases to have more stitches in the front, and to have the correct number of stitches in the back. But I think because of that modification, that ends up being maybe like a little bit loose under the arms, so it's not quite boxy level, drop shoulder sort of loose, but it does end up making it maybe a little bit funny in here. I don't know. So this has actually been sitting in my knitting bag, like ready to show off to people, but knitting got canceled this week, so. But it would be the case where, in terms of the vision of the sweater, I think I hit it spot on. So having this solid color with the cool variegated one, and then this pattern I think really does end up showing off a hand spun really, really well. Obviously both parts are hand spun, but it's a little bit more obvious in the marled sections. And I'm wearing this with leggings, because that would be how I would like to wear it. And so in that regard, the extra length is better for leggings overall, because the key to leggings is bum coverage, so. After blocking, I am happier with the sleeves. They are definitely 0 to negative ease, but they were probably a little bit too negative ease before blocking, and I think we managed to get that under control. That was the case where when I was blocking it, I just made sure to smoosh it outwards. It wasn't like, this was definitely a lay flat to dry operation. I'm wondering whether or not the extra length also makes the asymmetry like a little bit less obvious, but I don't know. That's fine. The stripes end up sort of highlighting the asymmetry. But yeah, no, not too crazy. Anything else I wanted to do sort of in the full view? So I don't think that I would knit the sweater again, but it may be the case where going for the modifications where people made it a little bit less positive ease in the bottom half, gave it less breathing space, I know. That might end up being like a really nice shape. But I think that this will be very, very wearable as is. So it is my breathing space. Ta-da! Look, we're doing this on the fly today, so it works out. So happy, or whatever, reasonably happy with this. There may be some things that I wish had been done better, but there's no way. I'm going back. Yeah, such is life. So I did have a real finish this week, so that's cool. I finished my Rose City Roller-ish socks. We're gonna go with ish because I incorporated pieces of my favorite little vanilla sock pattern. So, what would it be? I believe I still qualify for Amy's knit along, so that's a big deal. And the knit along is over, though if you were a little bit late, she didn't necessarily close the thread right away. So, I grab my sock blockers, as you do, but obviously they're not going very far up. But these are my rollers. So I incorporated the ribbing from the Just Ribbing pattern, which is a 2x1, which also counts as a free pattern. So I did a couple of different cowl things at the same time. So this is knit out of Mustache in the rainbow, or the Martian Rainbow colorway, and Sheep Dreamery in the Blue Jean Baby colorway. And so these were both matched skeins of yarn. The Blue Jean Baby was a sock blank, and then the Martian Rainbow was the must match sock. So unfortunately Sheep Dreamery is no longer in business, but Stacy will happily sell you this yarn. The rainbow. I love the rainbow so hard. It makes me tremendously happy, and the fact that it's blue as well. It's worth noting that my wedding colors were blue in all of the other colors. I love them all, but I love blue the most. So I didn't have a whole hell of a lot of either. It was definitely running on the fumes when I was finishing this bad boy. I was a little bit afraid that I wasn't going to be able to get it done, but luckily Memorial Day weekend saved me. So I started off in this purple, knit until I got to the red, then I whacked in the blue heel flap, and then knit until I ran out of the rainbow, and that coincided with about when the gusset was over for the first sock and was way off on the second. I ended up doing much steeper decreases on the second. So this guy here is the second sock. So I had to decrease very, very fast because I knew I was also going to use the whole thing of the blue. So on this second sock, which is the top guy, I reknit the toe 3 times. Well, or would it be? Third time was the charm. So it was the case where I ended up having not enough yarn Sunday night, so I hadn't even made it to, so when I do my toe decreases, I start off with an every other round decrease, and then after I get half the stitches done, then I do an every round decrease. But I ran out before I got to the every yarn decrease, which meant that I had knit too many rows, and then I counted and like, yes, I have too many rows of the blue. So what I ended up doing then was I ripped back 4 rows, and then I had way too much yarn at the end, so I ripped back that toe, knit 2 of those rows back, and in the end I had about a gram total left of the blue. So hopefully about a half a gram of either. So at this point that blue yarn is now for holding sleeves in the future. So the other thing that so during the gusset section I ended up doing normal decreases, but then on the toe I opted to do feathered decreases. And what I actually like about the feathered decreases is that it in a way does make sort of a smoother line. So instead of what the feathered decrease is doing is hiding maybe a little bit of the fact that, so if you do sort of more lined up decreases, what you see are 4 stitches that are all lined up. When you do feather decreases, you have 2 stitches that are lined up, and then the rest of the sock is sort of curving, or whatever, the rest of those decreases are curving into those 2 center stitches. And it is a little bit stretched out on this side. You can see more of a line on my SSK side, whatever. As far as my decreases go, that's typical. And then I also did Eye of Partridge heels, because I knew with this sock blank yarn that it was going to be really pretty that way. So the only thing I have left to do is maybe trim some ends. This was good, I think, for about 250 yards for Stash Dash, but I can check because I have quantified things since. Oh, sorry. I have quantified things since. So let's go to my favorites. Let's see. So the breathing space was good for 1,519 meters, and the Rose City rollers were good for 230.5 meters, which brings me up to 1,749.5 meters so far. So, pretty cool in the grand scheme of things. Not too shabby. So, these were, I don't know, I guess I do have another whip that I'm carrying through, so not too crazy, but happy with these socks, glad to get them in the rotation. I have left all of my sock scraps out if I feel like I need to continue to make shorty socks, which could be actually pretty nice with leggings as well, going on a theme of with leggings. Okie doke. So, Stash Dash has turned out pretty well so far. Why I delayed this episode was to finish spinning singles, but we can get back to that in a little bit. As you do. So, let me show you first the work in progress you have seen before, which unfortunately is in the middle of a row and highly tangled. Or I think it's in the middle of a row. Oh, yeah, I guess not. It is super well attached to my bag right now, though. Oh no, this is not. It is in a state of great awkwardness, for which I will need to fix right now. Oh no. So, this is unfortunate, as you do. So, this is my Inara wrap that I am knitting out of Canon hand dyes in the Leo and Naked Brew spaces. So the Leo is a superwash merino cashmere silk base, which is super duper nice. And the Bruce is a merino yak nylon piece. And I don't think we have anything unrecoverable happening right now, so that's good. And then the Leo is dyed as sort of a jewel tones peacocky gradient, even though I do not immediately recall. There wasn't a name on the gradient, unfortunately. So I don't actually know what the colors are, but it goes from a forest green to a dark turquoise to a light turquoise to a sky blue to a dark bluish purple, and then a more reddish purple at the very end. So this has received probably most of the love this week, knitting wise. By far. It is not like a perfectly mindless project, but it's respectable. And we have almost recovered. That was like a big boo-boo there, as you do. So let me release the yarn. So what really needs to happen is I need to move what project bag this is in. I currently have it in my knotted bag, but the yarn likes to eject. So I need a bag that is more thoroughly closed. But at this point I have incorporated all of the colors so far, which is cool. So let me work back to a region of decreased awkwardness. I am really glad that that was recoverable, because it's unfortunate when things fall apart in lace sections. But luckily, anything that dropped wasn't too crazy. So I'm in a right side row right now, so that made it a little bit easier to recover from. Let's see. So this has been going along fairly smoothly. It sort of has regions of complete mindlessness followed by not so complete mindlessness, but that's not the end of the world. So now we're back, but maybe I'll finish the row. So I did do a little bit of counting on this and then realized that I had too many stitches. So I did eliminate the extra stitches. I'm just making sure I'm even doing the pattern right. Options. So I eliminated the extra stitches because while I do have extra yarn, I may have used that extra yarn in modifying the pattern slightly to incorporate better color blocking, or whatever, blocking more appropriately the different sections of the shawl, which resulted in me re-knitting the beginning 3 blocks-ish earlier. So I don't want to run out, but it would be the case where at this point I am at the halfway, or pretty close to the halfway. I still have my original skein of Bruce, even though it is somewhat deflated at this point. Definitely glad that I got the second skein, because I don't think I would have made it through it all. And I am very, very close to halfway at this point, which is exciting. So I'm currently incorporating the last color for the first time, and this will also be the first color that I'm done with, because this big teal section will be matched up with a neutral and this light teal being used again. So, and that's just sort of how I decided to do the color gradient, so it meant that those 2 blocks got to be neighbors. But that's not the end of the world. I am really liking this light teal color. And my hair. Ubiquitous. So, almost done with the row. So it is coming along. I am I'm getting close to sort of the halfway point on the lace pattern, I believe, for this particular section. So not too much more knitting needs to be done on this bad boy before I will turn the corner and be more than halfway. Because I am fairly monogamous at the moment, this is going to end up getting a decent amount of love in whatever the coming weeks, more than likely, because it is probably more mindless than the other project I have on the needles, which is fine. So, and I'm also glad because it seems like the numbers are working out a lot better now. So I may have been off for quite some time with the decreases. So this is the wrong side. Let's show you the right side. So, ooh, all sorts of fun tangles. So I now have every color in this, which is pretty cool. So I have my reddish purple, reddish purple down here, dark green, bluish purple, dark teal, light blue, and then this teal, this light teal color. The light teal color and the blue are pretty similar, but whatever. That's what I get for the least value change there. But I am liking sort of this alternating between bright colors and neutral. I think it makes it a little bit less crazy pants. And then I am really liking the fact that every color block is completely surrounded by the border colors. So that was a modification that I added. This little blip of purple here, for example, was not in the original design. But because I had extra yarn, I decided to go for it. So still have plenty of this teal. And this teal is close but different to the blue. So it isn't maybe even showing up that well on the screen, but they're definitely close in value for sure. So once I turn the halfway point, then I will have this neutral and teal, and we'll go from there. So it's very close. But I definitely have I'm definitely more than halfway through this guy. So I might have some extra Bruce to incorporate in a different project in the future. Or it seems like I'm going to have a decent amount left over of my extra skein. But I really do need to get these balls out of this bag because it just isn't, they're all just sort of crammed in there, and it's not as secure as I was hoping it would be. Or when I stuff it in and out, I don't close it, I don't know. But I've dropped so many balls of yarn in this project, it's hilarious. So this second half is going to have more, or whatever, have a lot more purple, and hopefully it'll be like a really gorgeous looking gradient that's sort of incorporating everything from end to end. So, not too crazy. Yeah, enjoying it so far. And I'm back to the correct stitch count, so that's nice. I took out the extra stitches in here in the lace, so I don't think that it ends up, it maybe curls a little bit more because of how I'd taken the extra stitches out on this side, but I don't think it's too crazy. You can perhaps see places where I accidentally added them. So, whatever, that's what blocking wires are for. So, coming along nicely. It's definitely got a lot of drama going on because of that parallelogram shape, which is like a pretty cool technique. It's making it maybe a little bit more fun to knit a giant rectangle, because that isn't normally my jam, but the color changes are sufficient to keep me entertained. So that's actually been going along fairly well. It isn't the case where you're like, I'm filled with regret. Why did I pick halfway to be here? I've only ever knit one other rectangular shawl, so I was very, very filled with regret when I decided to add 2 extra repeats to it. Why couldn't I have done 13? Let's see. So, at the very least, a little bit of synergy between things. Would it be the socks counted for SSK Free Pattern Cal, Amy of Stranded Dye Works Roller Derby, and the Sock Knitters Knit 5,500 Socks in 2019 Challenge. Would it be? The other projects I'm working on aren't really too much of a challenge. So I ended up winding my Claudia's hand-painted dyed or hand-painted yarn, and what I have here is her linen lace weight. In terms of, or what would it be? It'd be interesting maybe to do like a wraps per inch comparison versus yardage comparison. I don't know, whatever. Because, what would it be? It's about 550 yards per 100 grams, so it may just be that linen is a much more dense fiber. But I am using it in this fingering weight pattern because I tried on the sample and the sample looked fabulous and I was quite happy. Now this yarn is a little bit more variegated than the sample I tried on, so we shall see how this all turns out. So I am knitting with this yarn the Vitamin D pattern, which is a Heidi Kermeyer design. And it took a little bit of getting used to understand her pattern writing style, and there's possibly some things that maybe could have been done a little bit more clearly, because it's definitely been a one step forward, two steps back feeling to get this far. So I probably actually lucked out because for some reason I didn't interpret the gauge correctly. But I started this project, I figured out that my gauge was too loose with the recommended needle size. I didn't swatch. I did have my Ann Budd see-through gauge ruler, and I was definitely getting 5.5 stitches per inch with my US 4 needles. So, or maybe I was using 3s. I might have started with the US 3s, the 3.25s. But I was off, so then I switched to my size 2.5 needles, my 3mm, and I am on gauge. I thought I was off gauge, and then I reread the pattern, so I am right on my 6 stitches per inch now, which is good. I am knitting the medium 1 size, which is for a 36.5 inch back measurement, which is pretty close. I'm more like a 37 without the boobs. But I figured that was going to be a decent size. And I'm planning to knit as much of the yarn as humanly possible. So this will likely mean that as soon as I separate for the sleeves, I will work the sleeves. So that shouldn't be too crazy, and then I just know that the rest of the yarn is all going towards that. So this is, I don't have too many problems working with linen. I was surprised about this when I was knitting my Intarsia top, or my Intarsia also, whatever, tunic mini dress thing earlier. And I think part of this is the fact that because I throw and because I tension my yarn not at all, that working with something not stretchy is not a big deal for me. This is probably has a little bit nicer hand than the Fiber Natura that I was using, which is nice. And I am curious to see how this guy is going to pull. This is a constantly increasing stitch, or the sweater just has constant, never-ending increases. So in that regard, whatever is going to happen is going to only happen for so long. But I am finally moving forward on this bad boy and sort of getting used to Heidi Kermeyer style, which is having like cables. So what it be? It was a little bit of a learning curve to get started, but I think I'm doing okay now. I cast on for this as soon as I had finished, or I had wound the yarn pretty much as soon as I had finished the Rose City rollers. So this shall be, I don't know, I'm not sure how mindless this bad boy is going to end up being. It's definitely going to have very flowy fronts, which I'm okay with in sweaters. So this is going to be a fun cardigan. The sample totally sold me, so I already know what size I want to knit. I already know it looks really good on me. So in that regard, we're happy. And it's just a matter of, what would it be? At some point, I think when I get maybe closer to the halfway point on this skein, then I am going to start incorporating the second and alternating. But as long as I'm sort of doing this initial section, or it may just be the case where I start to get to the point where I find the pooling to be awkward and start alternating then. Alternating skeins, only sometimes breaks up pooling, especially if you just get like a certain cadence. So the other thing you have to think about when you start alternating to eliminate pooling is making sure you don't start in the same spot on the other yarn. You have to mix it up a little bit. So, because what's happening with pooling is that you're getting a geometric convergence. So what length of yarn you're using is corresponding to the length of yarn that you're knitting, and that's why it begins to stack or spiral, is once you get a stitch count that starts layering that color on top of each other over and over again. And it looks like I will be doing a planned pooling breakout at SSK, so that's going to be a lot of fun, and I need to make sure I have some yarn lying around somewhere that would be like a good example. I might have put all my Fulmisa scraps. Fulmisa is probably the easiest yarn to do planned pooling with, because they're super crisp color blocks. I would feel very silly if I had to, I don't know, I probably should open a box rather than buy new yarn to demonstrate planned pooling with, but whatever. So, coming along, it is a wee teeny sweater right now. I decided to prioritize a different project, but it's just a little crescent now. Eventually this little crescent will be a sweater. So I have 2 more balls of this. The sample I tried on was 2.5 skeins, so I'm going to make my sample a little bit bigger. Smidge. And it should be fun. I don't know, you know, if in the great sweater debate about those who love long sweaters and those who love short sweaters, Team Leggings loves long sweaters and Team Skirts love short, and I'm not really a skirt person. Like, I'll wear a dress on occasion, fancy occasion, but skirts aren't a part of my everyday wear, but jeans and leggings totally are. So I do truly love a long sweater, even if it does decrease access to pockets. So, so this guy's been fun so far. Once I've gotten the style things sorted out, I might need to, it requires quite a bit of careful reading, so I don't know if that's because my brain space or something else. I don't know, I was in such a bad brain space yesterday. Like, be glad I didn't record yesterday. Today is better. Like, I took my vitamins. Now we're out of coffee, which is sad. But I think we're pretty close to being done now, so it's okay. So I finished spinning the singles for my Corriedale spin. I looked it up. I started the spin January 6th. This is like the most shamefully long I have ever spun 8 ounces of yarn. Oh my gosh. And I'm not even done spinning it yet. So there's that. Okay. I'm just verifying that I have all of my pieces. So this is the one that I originally spun in January. And then it got interrupted because I needed to spin more yarn for my breathing space. So breathing space made this project more epic than it needed to be, but breathing space made everything more epic than it needed to be. I went from smallest ball to biggest ball, I think. So spun this guy, I spun this guy, I did this guy, which was definitely filling up the bobbin, and then I finally finished this one today. And I didn't even, it's not, I don't know if my Anchorworks bobbins are just capable of holding more or what, but I know, that's so dark you can't even really see anything at all. So I had 4 balls, now I have 4 bobbins, and I'm planning on 2-plying this. And perhaps I will find out that I just spun this ridiculously more fine than I intended, and that's why it took me 5 months. I don't know. This is ridiculous. Like, maybe I can safely subtract 1, but it was like a month per 2 ounce. And I don't think it was necessarily an unpleasant spin. It was actually pretty fascinating to spin. So what we have going on is this sort of midnighty, bluey purple. And then it has pops of fuchsia and turquoise. And all of these ended up having sort of a very similar, see, this is too bright and not focusing. I'm not hearing like obnoxious noises though. So we're just gently moving it back until it comes in. I know, that's probably not terrible. It's probably making lots and lots of crazy noises. But I suppose that it is pretty fine and it's definitely very textured. I spun this, roughly speaking, long draw-ish. Not like pull it, like let her rip, pull it back, but definitely letting the twist into the drafting zone. But perhaps that's why it took forever, it was just really fine. I decided that I was going to finish the singles this weekend, which is why I'm recording Sunday instead of Saturday. And mood. But now I have all of my bobbins. So what I'm going to do is I'm probably going to take my smallest bobbin, and this guy seems to be the biggest bobbin, and apply those together, and then probably incorporate my bigger bobbin here with the medium one right here. So I'll just point with my nose. So I'm going to start this. I'm going to do it on my jumbo just so I can get everything on at once. And hopefully it's going to be like a really fluffy, nice woolen spun sort of yarn. So it definitely is, it's definitely spun up very soft, very squishy. It has that woolen spundiness, which you just can't get when you spin worsted. And then I'm totally in love with the slow changes in color because of the fact that I dyed, or whatever, I had the roving, I braided it up, dyed it all, and then ran it through a drum carder twice. Pulled it through a diz in order to pull my bats through a diz to end up creating this stuff. And I tried to be sort of as even as possible in order to mix everything up and to get good color mixing. So I think overall it's going to be very, very gorgeous. And we'll find out about the yardage. Based on how long it took, and based on the fact that woolen spun isn't as dense, so my grist is probably quite a bit lighter than my worsted usual, this could be absolutely obscene yardage. It took long enough. I hope it's obscene yardage because it accidentally got saved for Stash Dash. That was not my intent when I started. I was just hoping for a quick, easy project. I don't know. So we'll see how epic it is to play. There are other responsibilities that I have to take care of, and perhaps is the case where I might be totally outmatched. We'll see. I was trying to just have a reasonably chill weekend, but I'm having the realtors come tomorrow, so I have been endeavoring to get things at least semi-respectable, talk about the possibility of putting the house on the market, but that requires quite a lot of hiding of boxes, and I think I've done a decent job so far hiding the boxes. I may need to hide some boxes in different locations than I'm currently hiding, but such is life. What would it be? Like, there are certain zones of the house where you just want it to be as open and airy as possible, but whatever, such is life. And then finding like all of the clutter and hiding it somewhere. What would it be? I was really hoping last week that we could tackle sort of the random smattering of stuff that just needs to go, but we didn't. So there might be a few boxes that are just filled with WTF, and we're just gonna have to accept that those occur. And it's possible the realtors would be like, no, we're not putting the house on the market with those fish tanks in the formal living room. And that is fine. What would it be? So that's sort of where my headspace is right now, is that I had quite a lot of boxes and filled and empty in my living room, and now they are out. And now I know how dirty it is. And I've taken boxes that have been scattered elsewhere, that are safe to put in the garage, because we are full-on summer in Texas now. And for those that don't have any contents, which are whatever going to be destroyed by extreme temperatures, those are also out, or those are in the garage. So I'm just accepting the fact that it's like, well, it is. What would it be? It is a big garage, but right now it's mostly filled with my worldly possessions, or my husband's worldly possessions. So the giant mountain of boxes is there. There was a very brief time in which we actually had a car in the garage, which closed the door. That's just due to extreme compacting, not because very many things left, but such is life. So because of that, there isn't quite as much chill time, but I don't know. I after recording, I'm probably going to put a big push to taking, what would it be? Getting all of the books into the garage so that they are no longer in the hallway. But there are just some things where it's like, So it's possible to meet with realtors and they'll be like, no, you're waiting until you get the fish tanks out. So we shall see. I'm okay heeding their advice, because I wouldn't want to like lose thousands of dollars on the sale of the house because we didn't have our crap together. So if I have to wait to get my crap together, that might be better. We'll see. So that's been weighing on me maybe a little bit, but I feel better about it now that I got everything out of the living room. That was weighing on me a little bit because I think I was like well crafting looking at it all. I'd be like, stuff everywhere. Now I can't see it, and it's fine. Whatever, such is life. So, what's going on the wheel next are these guys, which is my seconds from combing, which is also a very similar midnighty purple color. Less turquoise, but I'm just looking at these two and being like, yeah, no, they're pretty close. Probably more on the purple end of Midnight than the blue end of Midnight, all things considered. And that's just sort of been sitting behind me balefully because I would like to get this second skein done as soon as possible because that means I can move on to the main event. So this is a part of my spin the bin. That is a part of my spin the bin. And then all of this is too. So I am probably going to, sort of my next big spinning push is going to be working on that project. And so I'm going to get the seconds skein done. And I think what I'm going to do after that is dig into the hackle waist, and what I'm going to end up doing there is do a ply of each. The midnight color is probably off from what the actual dyed is going to end up being because my seconds had the original color and then the secondary color, the original color, and then waist from the color that I ended up changing it to as well. So, but it'll be close. It'll give me an idea about whether or not I like the idea of having it be a marl and have that be my fourth skein of waist. And that'll actually be like a fairly, that'll be like a fairly beefy skein when it's done. I'll probably that'll end up being a 3-ply. My vision is to have sort of a 3-ply fingering marl and have it have very slowly shifting colors, sort of like a trekking looks, just because of how I combined the fibers together. So the dark teal color is fairly solid throughout, but then there should be shifts in colors from the ones where I hackled together many colors of fiber instead of just one. So we shall see. But that waist gain from my hackle waist should be a pretty good gauge. I put those on the bag. No. But when I spin this, sorry, we'll just keep this doubled up because it is less transparent. But this should give me sort of an idea about what that yarn will look like from something that's probably a little bit shorter staple length. Yeah. I wonder where those went. Whatever. But the only fiber that I have with me right now is spin the bin fiber. But I am so far behind. What would it be? I also have I think I have 11 ounces of this. But it is not as inspiring a color to me. But that might be one where I end up dyeing it after it's spun. We'll see. I don't know. It could be interesting. I don't know what color it would turn if you added more blue, but we can. Who knows? It's a mystery. Yeah, no, it's weird. I wonder where that went. It's somewhere. So, yeah, I feel like I'm so far behind on this bin. I really need to get this done. So, we shall see. I have other responsibilities. And so far I haven't had any takers on my waist. So whatever. Hopefully I find somebody who's interested. It's a pretty decent amount of stuff, so. Oh well, if not, it could also just be composted. What would it be? It's too short to be by itself at this point. Alrighty, dite. So as it stands right now, I should be able to record next week. It's going to be I bet it'll be Sunday, but who knows. I have an event Saturday I'm going to, so I'm not sure how much time that's going to end up taking. Whatever. I don't anticipate casting on anything new. I'm definitely feeling a little bit of mild regret. What was it? I was watching, where would it be? I was catching up on my podcast. I'm finally up to date. And it was just the case where I'm like, I'm feeling inspired, and I know that yarn is packed away. So I was trying to be intelligent about what I kept with me to sort of match up with where my winds of creativity were blowing at the moment of packing the yarn. And now I feel like they're blowing in different directions. I'm like, rats. But hopefully it won't be too long. So I have miles and miles and miles of yarn. At least 2 miles, and definitely more, because I do have 2 skeins of wool mycel lace out. Yeah, no, I definitely don't have any nice so it's not like I'm gonna run out of knitting in the time, but now it's like, ooh, I'm feeling, what would it be? Like feeling brioche and feeling combining multiple colors together, and it's like, I packed that. So, oh well, such is life. You can't predict these things. Or would it be? You can try to predict these things, but it won't work. Oh well, I figure that I will be generating a decent amount of yarn, so in that regard, I don't think, or would it be, because it was like, why did I leave so little hand spun out? But I'm making hand spun, it'll be fine. And if I get like super duper Mondo yardage on this, I'm thinking, I am seriously contemplating another hit of Fude, but this one would be much more solid and maybe not quite as insanely long. I don't know, whatever. So perhaps there are more hand-spun sweaters in my future. But it's like, not that I would have immediately cast on, and perhaps that's where it works out okay, because it'd be like, I don't want to have too many projects on, so hold your horses, it'll be fine. So it'll be fine. So I think with that, I hope you guys have a lovely week, and I look forward to talking to you guys soon. So take care, guys. Bye-bye.